Never miss an episode of the Final Furlong podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Emmet Kennedy.
Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast and the review of what was a pretty dramatic weekend at Doncaster, Leopardstown and the Curragh for Irish Champions weekend. We are going to start by talking about the superstar, the best horse we saw over the weekend in the company of Georgia Cox, Adam Mills and Jamie Wrenn. And obviously I'm talking about the undefeated Zavateri, who will never be beaten. He will win everything, including the Champion Stakes or Irish Champion Stakes in a year's time. We can dream, but he told you. We are going for the race that we were right about, and then we'll work back through some of the others. It was an interesting weekend. Zavateri, sensational scenes, Georgia. He comes from off the pace on a speed favouring track. There were a couple of horses like Precise and El Rifa came from off the pace, so we'll talk about it a little bit later on. But just from a jockey's perspective, for Charlie Bishop to be going into a Group 1 against Aidan O'Brien and Christophe Soumillon at Ballydoyle's backyard and ride a horse from off the pace on a speed favouring track, that was ballsy. How difficult is it to do that?
Yeah, I mean, he kept it to what he's done every time. Every time he's sort of been out the back, and I do think there'll be more improvement for him when he steps up to a mile, because I don't think they intentionally hold him up. You know, he's not a keen horse that needs to settle. He just lands there. He was possibly one of the first to come off the bridle. He's a proper little terrier. When he took that bump, you know, Italy looked very awkward, and he couldn't really hold him in any longer. And that bump sort of set him alight to crack on, and he battled the whole way to the line. I think he will improve from a step up to a mile, as I don't think they intentionally hold him up. And it was great that, you know, a lot of people would have passed taking on the Ballydoyle battalions in their own back garden. It's great for Eve. He had a form boost going into it with Morris Dancer, who had since beaten subsequent Solario winner, A Bit of Spirit. It's great for Without Parole, given his second season sire, who stands for just 8,000, his first Group 1 winner, and Sayuni, his first Group 1 winner as a broodmare sire. Yeah, I love the fact that Accidental Agent gave Eve her first Group 1 winner on the same day that Without Parole won the St James's Palace Stakes. And we're going into the winter with, in my mind, Eve Johnson-Horton and George Bowie with the main fancies for the Guineas next year, with Bo Echo, who lines up this week in the Hereford Stakes. Well, I mean, it's much more interesting.
Yeah, very much so. And that may very well be another British winner on Irish shows. It's been the British invasion. They've been conquering everything this week. It was great to see, by the way, particularly Carl Burke, who's just such a likeable man and a brilliant trainer. It was great to see him having such success. Being in the parade ring with Eve Johnson out and hooping and hollering was absolutely spectacular as well. I loved it. I love this horse. I love the story, Adam. I'm so pleased for people who were messaging us to say they're on this horse at 25-1 on the back of us in the podcast. It's really nice when you get one right this quickly, this early, and they're living up to the potential. Now, don't doubt for a second that there's going to be taller tasks for him to face. But in my mind, I can't quite understand why a horse in Albert Einstein, who we haven't seen since Royal Ascot, and he didn't make Royal Ascot, is favourite for the 2,000 Guineas in a race that Aidan O'Brien has not won since 2019 and has very clearly changed his modus operandi to how he trains. So why is Zavateri not getting more respect in the betting, for one thing? If the hypothetical, if Aidan O'Brien or Charlie Appleby trained this horse, he's a single-figure price, and he's a short single-figure price for the Guineas. He's unbeaten in 4 starts. He's a 3-time Group winner. He's the first horse since Ivawood to win the July Stakes on first start. He's the first horse in 11 years to carry a penalty to win the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood. That's at least 11 years. Racing Post data wouldn't go back any further, and it was going to take too long to go through the rest of them. And you will see 9 Stone 3. That was during COVID. It's got nothing to do with those horses carrying penalties for 3 races in the 2020s. He's the only one to do that. Georgia just pointed out the fact that he beat Morris Dancer, who'd beaten A Bit of Spirit subsequently in the Stonehenge Stakes. A Bit of Spirit comes out and wins the Solaro Stakes. In behind is the moral winner of that race, Humidity, and he smashed up Humidity in the Vintage Stakes as well. And he's now just beaten Italy, who's been placed in 2 group races. Why is this horse still 14-1 for the 2,000 Guineas?
Well, it's a good question. I think the connections definitely have something to do with it. It's probably also the kind of the starting point. I mean, looking at Betfair, there's less than 8,000 in the pot for the 2,000 Guineas anti-post. So most of that money is going to be on Gstaad and Albert Einstein because they're trained by Aidan O'Brien and people just follow them in the hope they get the right side of the price. Zavateri has definitely shrunk in price. If it was purely priced on form and the 2,000 guineas was tomorrow, Zavateri would have to be the favourite. He'd have to be the favourite. He's beaten Gstaad, who's got the best form in Aidan O'Brien's yard. If you draw that form line and you look at the way Gstaad run, I thought Gstaad run his race. I don't think there was any particular excuse. For a brief moment, I thought Italy was going to come and do him, but he just looks a bit clumsy. Is that the right word? Just sort of shapes like he's kind of not ready yet and probably needs 10 furlongs in 6-7 months' time before he's going to be at his best. But, Zavateri's just shown a great attitude in the final furlong. If he trains on over the winter, he has to be 2,000 guineas favourite. He just has to be. Because what he's achieved is far more than anything else on the actual track. There are others with bigger reputations from the start of the season, but Zavateri just keeps winning. And sometimes it's just bloody obvious. There's loads of ones next to his name for a reason.
I think an awful lot of people, Jamie, as well, have just been against this horse and now they can't accept that they're wrong and Zavateri is right. And I understand that. Like, I've been in that position myself. And sometimes when you're wedded to an opinion about a racehorse, you can't get yourself out of it. You have to try and, well, it's not I didn't read it wrong. The horse was a lucky winner. Yeah, that's it. And that way you don't have to accept that you're the one who's wrong. But Adam has just outlined it perfectly. Unbeaten in 4 starts, 3-time group winner. He's now won a Group 1. Gstaad ran his race. He ran his race. There's nothing wrong. There's no excuses for Gstaad there. By the way, they wouldn't hear of defeat for him. The connections would not hear of defeat. Don't even mention that idea. They also backed Italy into second favoritism for the race. So that's a horse who's going to win a Group 1 at some point. And I think Adam's right. He's a bit of a quirky character. I imagine he could be a horse that has some issues, but he's talented and he will win a Group 1 race. And Zavateri just knocked him into touch. Where's the respect, Jamie?
Well, Mrs. Coates has said that she gave a 6-4 in the boost, so you knew with a big Kerry accent on Jerry Hannon going Gstaad, and all of a sudden then he changed. I love his pronunciations of horses when at the start of the season he was saying Gstaad against True Love up the hill in Neville. Like, where's he getting Gstaad? He's nearly shouting at the microphone, like, but anyway, but anyway, we're not going to go there. I'm going to say one thing here. I think next year's horse, you can see it already with the gamble that was on 2 Aidan O'Brien's horses, which we'll get on to later. One was Italy and the other one was a filly. You can see it for Italy that he will be next year's horse if he learns how to settle. Now, the form we'll get on to with Javon and all them stab days. Doesn't look great, does it? And does that, with him in the race, does the form look spectacular for Zavateri and Gstaad? I'm going to nearly call him Gstaad now. That's very bad. But that's the only small, I think that's why I think he's 14-1, Emmet. And plus, there's 2 things, 50-50. It's the trainer, because if this was trained by Godolphin, I'm going to say Godolphin, or Aidan O'Brien, this would be favourite. It'd just be 4-1 favourite now, probably. Yeah. But it's the 50-50 that, and the fact that Italy got so close for me. I didn't like that. Now, he will train. Hold on a second. He will train on next year.
Yeah, did you not just say that Italy is going to be next year's horse?
Yeah.
Okay, so why
I think he'll lead further, and I think he'll lead 10 furlongs. So I don't think Italy's a Guineas horse. Forget about that. And exactly what you're saying with Albert Einstein with Owen's team. Sure, we haven't seen apparently Aidan O'Brien's 2 best 2-year-olds all year. Albert Einstein's injured, and Charles Darwin hasn't been seen since the Norfolk.
Yeah.
As well, like, do you know what I mean? But look, Charles Darwin's going to become a World Cup horse. He's not a Guineas horse. So I don't know, but as I said, I really like this horse. We said it months ago. Adam said it. You said it. We've all said it. This horse is brilliant. We've all backed it for 2,000 guineas. It will be an interesting renewal in the Dewhurst, and I hope it happens. I wouldn't like Zavateri to get that far behind in a Dewhurst than at the Curragh weekend. Yeah. I know it battles, but if Gstaad gets first round into the dip, I'd worry that he'd get him. But if that was Dewhurst 7 furlong, if it was a mile, Zavateri would get him. But I just worry about that slightly. But I'm still with Zavateri. all day, and I think it'd be great. And I hope it happens, and I hope it's a rematch in Dewhurst, because I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in George's take on that as well, because I don't think Charlie will let them go that far in front of him again. It happened to work out very well at the Curragh at the weekend, and it suited him there. But that's not really... He did hold him up on debut, but not that extreme. He did hold him up in the July Stakes from memory, but he ended up being stuck out wide, and he still went and won, and he wasn't that far off them. And Goodwood... You watch back Goodwood, it's even more impressive. Remember the fact he's carrying a penalty, and he comes from where he comes from, and goes through horses. So, you've worked some incredible racehorses in your time, Georgia. You have worked alongside some incredible racehorses, and there's no quick fix to this. There's no easy answer to... If there was an easy answer, people wouldn't be spending 7 figures at the sales in order to buy a champion. The reason they pay 7 figures at the sales is they're desperate to get a champion, and they think that by overpaying for one, they'll get it. But this horse was bought for 30k, which is a substantial amount of money, but that's a drop in the ocean to Kia Bracken. And if somebody had said to him, he probably would have paid 300 grand for him and not batted an eyelid at it. So, a son of Without Parole, who is out of an unraced Aga Khan mare, who has a brother who won twice over 10 furlongs and 9 furlongs in Group 3 or Group 2 company in Australia as a 6-year-old, in my mind, is a racehorse who should not be doing what he's doing and should only be getting better. So he should improve with racing, and he should improve with age, which means he shouldn't be a precocious 2-year-old who's just doing a Pinatubo or a native trail. I'm more physically developed and mentally mature than you, and that's why I'm winning. But in a year's time, everything will have caught up with him. He should actually improve. Am I right about that? Or is there a danger that for some reason he's defying his pedigree and is just more precocious than everything?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he looks like quite a strong, butty type. Like, I think, Gstaad is quite a big horse, so is Van Dijk, and he did look smaller compared to them. And I think, he's a strong horse rather than tall in stature. But, I mean, Without Parole, the only Group 1 he won was the St James's Palace Stakes, and his downside is where the classy part comes in. So it will be interesting, but I really hope that he is the real deal, and I think he is. I think he's proved that now, and he just needs to keep going. I think he will, like Jamie said, he will improve from a mile, because then, he won't be so behind early on. He will be able to generally travel better, and, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's how I see this, and I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on Gstaad as well before we switch to the next race. Anti-post betting is something that we're all interested in. Well, Georgia is only now able to be interested in it because she was a jockey, so couldn't do any of that dirty anti-post betting stuff. But now we're going to turn her into a mad keen anti-post betting fan, and she's going to be running around bookmaking shops and various different online accounts to try and scoop up as many odds as she possibly can. If this horse was trained by Charlie Appleby and Aidan O'Brien, and I know it's a cliche, or John and Thady Gosden, he's a single-figure price. But he's not. He's trained by Eve Johnson-Houghton. And there's a few commentaries on X to me saying he's the best 2-year-old in training, from people saying, Gstaad will beat him in the Dewhurst, and he's not a Guineas horse. And that's fine. That's great. Please keep saying that. Please keep telling people how Gstaad is going to turn the form around with him. Please keep telling people how, he's just a flashy 2-year-old and that's it and there's nothing else there. Please, if you think he's not all that and that he's got no chance in the Guineas, please, I implore you, tweet to your heart's content. Maybe you're right. Maybe the 4 of us, in fact, if I could add correctly, maybe the 4 of us on this podcast are all wrong, and we've been wrong all along, and he's been very lucky. Please keep telling people that. 14 to 1 to win the 2,000 Guineas. Adam Mills just told you this horse should be favourite for the Guineas if the race was run tomorrow. We're getting 14 to 1 about a horse who should improve on pedigree. He's unbeaten in 4 starts. He's won 3 group races. The form has substance to it. He's beaten Morris Dancer. He gave weight and a beating to Morris Dancer, who beats A Bit of Spirit, who wins the Solara Stakes, who beats Humidity, who Zavateri already beaten. Who are you afraid of? Boeco? Well, he's going for the Beresford Stakes, so that means They're already now. Sea the Stars won the Beresford Stakes, but Sea the Stars was one of the greatest horses we've ever seen. Maybe Boeco is. Maybe he is. 14-1. If he wins the Dewhurst, he's European champion 2-year-old. And they'll still find a reason not to make him favourite. You don't always get these opportunities. We have these opportunities now. So I've backed him again. And I'm going to back him again. Very quickly on Gstaad. Clearly stays 7 furlongs. Dewhurst is going to be interesting for him. What do you make of him going forward, Adam?
Should he go the Dewhurst or should he go the Futurity? Because in my mind, the Futurity looks a better race for him because you get a nice long straight mile, flat track, get him into a rhythm. He's still a Group 1 performer in my book. I don't think he lost anything in defeat. The two of them are nicely clear of Italy. I don't think it's impossible to think that Gstaad could improve to reverse the form, but you'd have to see something from him to suggest that.
Yeah.
Because at the moment he's reached, I think he ran to the same level in the Coventry that he ran to at the weekend. I think he's at that level without taking another step forward. And we've seen that he's vulnerable to speed. Got done at Deauville. He's got done here against horses who've just got that little bit more tactical speed than he has. I wouldn't personally think that I'd want to back him for the Dewhurst because Newmarket's a little bit quirky, and you don't. While I'm sure he'd handle the dip, you've kind of got to have the ability to go down into the dip and then quicken again, and he might just get caught for toe. Doncaster's the track. Straight mile is what he needs. And if he lined up in the Futurity, I'd be keen to back him. But right now, I don't think he's lost anything in defeat, but I don't think we learned anything new about Gstaad that we didn't know this time last week.
I'd be amazed if they went Futurity. And it's almost to do with the fact that they've got so many other horses. Benvenuto Gallini or whatever his name is. Not to mention Montreal, who Soumillon had originally been jocked up to ride. Like, those horses all look really good. Isaac Newton, Action, the brother to Lambourn, your favourite horse, Adam, who we'll talk about in a little bit. All of those horses are going to be ideally suited to that. Italy will be ideally suited to the Futurity Stakes. I would think they'll stick at the 7 furlongs with Stad. Maybe Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère, maybe. They always like to have something for that race as well. But he's talented. He's a massive beast of a horse. He actually looks like a sprinter. He really does look like his sire. But proper Group 1 performer. And they clearly think he's capable of winning a Group 1. They clearly think Italy's capable of winning a Group 1. So keep that in mind. And remember that Zavateri beat them. There was a little bit of interference towards the end, but not enough to change the result. So in my mind, he's beaten them fair and square. Right, Irish Champion Stakes. No Ombudsman, controversially. And there may have been a few shots fired in the parade ring afterwards as well. No Calandigan, the greatest horse in training, according to Adam Mills. Is his picture behind you, Adam?
Of course, he's right there. There he is.
Hey, it has arrived. Has it been there long?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. The Lazat one has arrived, but the missus is not keen on having it above the bed, so we'll have to think of somewhere else for that now.
She probably has a point.
I don't blame her because it's the greatest horse in training. Are you joking me?
The greatest horse in training was not there.
I love the Adam Mills still face. It's unreal.
he's coming up with a killer comeback. No Ombudsman.
Yeah. He still hasn't done it. Come on, Mills, come back with a better comeback.
Just remember now that the Gosden connections were saying that Ombudsman couldn't run in the Irish Champion Stakes because he wouldn't appreciate running in the month of September, but then wanted you to believe that he was going to run in 3 Group 1s in 2.5 months on 3 different continents. We await with interest to see him line up in the Champion Stakes, Breeders' Cup Turf and Japan Cup. We're watching you, Gosden. We're watching you. Mount Kilimanjaro ensured a proper gallop. There was no nonsense with Continuous. He's a proper pacemaker. Delacroix cruised through the race with ease. Soumillon presses the button and 2 furlongs out. It's game over. Georgia, from a jockey's perspective, it must have been a thing of joy to watch. Soumillon strutting his stuff. Great to see Delacroix back in the winner's enclosure. I have a question for Adam about how the hell he went 11-4 that morning, but from a form perspective and race tactics perspective, how good was Delacroix, Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't not be impressed by the way he swooped to the front, moving from a share of third to the lead so quickly, and off the bend, the injection of pace to come across the whole field and bag the rail. It was just, that's what people wanted to see. And Chris Hayes gave Emmet a great ride, following him through which made the race all the better. Having his biggest danger tracking through, he had every chance and opportunity to pounce if he could. It's just the afterthought was, why wasn't Ombudsman there? You know, it did turn out to be a fair, clean race. They set a decent gallop. Everyone laid up. They all spread out. The best horse won. 8 different races, 8 different trainers, 8 different jockeys. It doesn't get fairer than that. And now they're probably not even going to meet again, as it didn't sound from the after talk. It didn't sound like we're probably not even going to see him again. You know, I actually thought how keen they were to take City of Troy to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Delacroix is by Dubawi, who gets winners on the dirt. It's out of Tepin, a 6-time Group 1 winner who won on the dirt and turf. With a potent turn of foot off the bend, I thought he would be the one to go for the Breeders' Cup Classic, but it doesn't, I don't think, from what they're saying. And I thought he was going to be a monster next year. He's some specimen. He's got everything about him. So, yeah, it's disappointing. We're probably not going to see him again, but it was a great race to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the aftermath of it was, where next, Aidan? Maybe that's it. Maybe this is a St. Mark's Basilica job. Nah, we're done. And I kind of understand it in the sense that he's by Dubawi and they're Coolmore desperate to get a progeny of Dubawi to stand at stud. They're standing Henry Longfellow at stud, but okay, fine. This fella, he's out of Tepin. She's no longer with us, unfortunately. They've got Grateful, who is out of Tepin, and she won a Group 1 over mile 6 last year, and hopefully her progeny will be great. But this fella is an outcross. He's by Dubawi, out of Tepin. He's a multiple Group 1 winner in all aged races over 10 furlongs. A Group 1 placed as a juvenile. He's priceless to them, and they're looking for the next big superstar sire. Now, they've got one in Justify, we'll talk about, but does just sort of emphasize again, Adam, that there is a real problem. There is a real flaw to the basic fundamentals of British racing, which is it's all built on the breeding industry, and that's great for the breeders. It's not so great for the fans.
No, it's not, but you can kind of understand the logic to it. You know, and you also have to think it's not like Delacroix's got some kind of Frankel list of unbeaten records. There are a couple of blots on his copybook. So they've got to think this through as well, that if they keep pressing on and go to the Champion Stakes or whatever they decide to do, go to the Breeders' Cup, what are they going to add that Saturday's performance didn't deliver? Because Saturday's performance was probably at least as good as Ombudsman at Royal Ascot. Whether it was as good as the Juddmonte, I'm not sure. That race is a little bit messy. But, you know, Delacroix has bounced right back, put the Juddmonte to one side. He's won an Eclipse. He's won an Irish Champion Stakes. There are 2 10-furlong Group 1s on his CV. What more can he do? And the only thing they could do is take a risk with him. And the last thing they want to do that is take a risk where he gets beaten out of sight by something again, because it won't add anything. So I completely understand. Dare I say that this looked incredibly impressive because it was Soumillon? Am I allowed to say that? But Soumillon, right, he's just when he's in full flow, there is no better jockey to watch. Ryan Moore's a better jockey, but Soumillon, when he's got one right and he knows it's underneath him, he's got that suave Belgian arrogance. It's almost like he's looking at you and going, got your number, son, you're going nowhere. And it's just 2 furlongs. That's all that matters, 2 furlongs. 1 furlong to get there, 1 furlong to put it to bed. And it was like watching him in one of those Group 1s at Saint-Cloud. When he gets soft ground at Saint-Cloud, get to the stand side rail. And it's like he had a plan with Delacroix. I'm going to come through and I'm going over there. And when I get there, we're going to assert. And Delacroix was like, yep, no problem, boss. Here we go. Really good run. I thought Anmart ran a brilliant race.
Yeah, I agree.
And he couldn't on him. Anmart is 7-1 for the Champion Stakes. I would never bet against Calandagan. I'd rather get divorced. But I do think Anmart ran a really good race. And I thought there's too big a difference between the prices. It's all right. She doesn't watch the show. But I do think there's a bigger difference between the price. Calandagan's 11-4, Anmart's 7s. That should probably be closer to Calandagan 11-4. Anmart should probably be about 4s on the back of that, because that was a really good run. You never know what Barcelona's going to do. Wouldn't put you off Anmart as much. I think Calandagan will beat them both. Would Ombudsman have beaten Delacroix? I'm not going to do a Peter Michael, but that Delacroix is very dangerous to Ombudsman. The problem is there's another Delacroix who runs the races like he did in the International, where it doesn't quite go to plan. But yeah, this was, Well, personally, I'd have nothing between them. If they were to meet again, I'd have it even money the pair.
I was at the Curragh on Sunday, but on Saturday I was watching the racing TV coverage, and at least 2 of the pundits expressed the opinion that he is better than Ombudsman. And one of them, Dave Nevison, Jamie, said if they rematched, Delacroix should be odds on. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree with that, but if they rematched again, yeah, he would beat Ombudsman. Yeah. And if Ombudsman ran in that race on Saturday, the way it was ran, Emmet, Delacroix would have beaten it.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I agree.
The race was one, obviously, you know yourself, off the bend, and it was killer to what he did. It was brilliant. I agree with the lads. There's a great run from Man Matt, 7-1 from the Champion Stakes. Would have a chance on soft ground. I would give White Birch a chance on the English Champion Stakes if it came off soft heavy. I would. And I think, even with Cheltenham in the race, and if there's no Cheltenham, I think the English Champion Stakes will be between Man Matt and White Birch because of that time of year. You know, they always guaranteed soft ground in Ascot because of the time of year. It's mid-October. You're expecting it now. It'd be between the two of them for me off that run of the English Champion Stakes. I thought it was a good run from White Birch because he's been off so long. It was a good run from Matza Hill. I don't know what that Japanese horse keeps coming over for most of this time.
They were so bullish about him.
They were bullish, but it doesn't go on that ground, Emmet. You know, it was sticky.
Hold on. That's the thing. It wasn't bad ground.
Yeah, but like it rained and then it dried. Like, you know, you call that sticky ground if you will go into the other game, national game.
Fair enough.
But
that fella's got no chance in an arc, though.
Who? Shin Emperor? Oh, God, no.
Not a hope.
I'd love to see him again, but I think I agree with Georgia said when she started her speaking about Delacroix. It looks like you're not going to see him again. That's kind of sad, really sad, because the turn of foot is brilliant. And when he's right, he's right. Great right. From exactly what Adam was saying, I'm just repeating what Adam says. The Soumillon swagger was out at Leopardstown on Saturday, and it's great to see. Ombudsman, I suppose, is going Breeders' Cup turf, and that's just the way it is. He loved the fast pace at Delmar, and would he stay a mile and a half? He might at Delmar.
Hang on, where is this Breeders' Cup turf stuff coming out of?
Because they go fast paced, and that's what he wants.
Yeah, but where's the commitment from the Goslings that that's actually what they're doing? They're not going to do that. They're not going to go anywhere near
that. Where's he going to go? What, the Arc?
No, they'll go Champion Stakes.
In Britain?
Yeah. They'll go Champion Stakes. They'll do exactly what they did with Mostadaf. They'll go Champion Stakes and they'll pull him out because the ground is wrong, and then he'll get beaten in the Breeders' Cup turf.
Was he fancy him on slow? I know he won in. Where did he win in France, Adam? That race did he won in France? Where was that?
He won the race.
$3?
No.
Was it? There was a race at Deauville. Did he won? Didn't he?
He won. Didn't he win the race? He won the race at
won.
the Japanese one yesterday, is it not?
Yeah, the one that Darius was the real eye catcher in.
Didn't Economics win on the same card that year, wasn't it?
No, that was Prince. That was the Guillermo del Toro race.
He won the pre-Prince Orange, which is the race that was won by the Japanese Derby winning yesterday.
Yes.
And Economics had won the Guillermo del Toro, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Would you fancy Ombudsman and 10 furlongs on top ground in a tactical race on Champions Day? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either, but that's why they skipped Leopardstown.
I think there's a problem there that Ombudsman will need an almost identical ride to Cheltenham, and I could see the two of them looking at each other, and that's kind of what is a little bit concerning for me. But
surely, Adam. But sure, the one we all love, and this one, Rebels Romance. Surely they'd have put Rebels Romance out in front to set it up for Ombudsman. Use him.
I'll let you negotiate that call between Charlie Appleby.
Yeah.
£10 million multiple Group 1 winner is a pacemaker.
Yeah, he might have been able to get away with that nonsense with Ray Beckett's Curragh and Andre Fab's Burcastle. He ain't pulling that off. There is no way Charlie Appleby would hang up the phone straight away.
No, there'll be a phone call.
I'll give you a stare of it.
That's what it'll be. Can we hire Burcastle for the weekend? That'll be the aim.
I forgot about that horse, Adam. Sorry, thanks for reminding me. Burcastle, probably running that too. Yeah, they might run the three of them. But I think, honestly, lads, we're not being smart. I think Ombudsman's going to the Breeders' Cup Tour.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be backing him in October on soft ground in Ascot. No hope in hell. I'd take him on all day.
I think they've had their win, and that's it now. Personally. Willing to be proven wrong, but I think this is Mostelaf all over again.
When Wingy Gustin says, "Oh, we beat him once now, we won't take money."
Yeah, it's kind of convenient, that, isn't it? And then to say we're not going to come over to Leopardstown because of the pacemakers. It's like, oh, so it's okay when you do it, then it's fine. By the way, very pleasing that there was no pacemaker shenanigans. And can any of you name a race that Coolmore won with pacemaking shenanigans? Yeah, see? Gaslighting and projection.
They've won a couple of derbies with the pacemaker.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing at all. Did they win it with a pacemaker from a different stable? No.
Well, no, but it would be absurd to suggest that there aren't pacemaking tactics from Ballydoyle.
Whoa. Hold up. Wait a minute. I didn't say that there weren't pacemaking tactics.
They're not very good at pacemaking tactics.
They made a complete Horlicks of it in the King George, and I took Horlicks of it in the Prince of Wales Stakes. Now they've got a proper pacemaker in Mount Kilimanjaro, so they can go forward again. Interested to see where Continuous ends up. Probably Sweden. Maybe some Middle Eastern country. But it's the height of hypocrisy to say we don't want to go for a Group 1 because of the pacemaker situation. That's what you've done in 2 Group 1s that you ruined. The Sussex Stakes was a joke of a race, and the Juddmonte was even worse. It was a shambles of a race. And Darius finishing second in the Group 2 or Group 3, whatever it was on Sunday, is further proof of the fact that, that was a nonsense race. So when Aidan O'Brien said in the parade ring afterwards, that was only an exercise gallop, there's some people misinterpreting that now as, you didn't have him fit. That's not what Aidan O'Brien was saying. He's saying that the Juddmonte International was a stupid race this year because of how it was run. That's what he was saying, in my interpretation of it. So a lot of this is just winding people up to a certain extent. Like, I can tell Peter Michael is pacing up and down somewhere, and now starting to realize he's already drafted a big long tweet about how wrong I am and how dare I said, and I can see, we've reeled him in, keep reeling him in, and now he realizes he's been reeled in. Ombudsman's obviously a very good horse, but I'm with Jamie and I'm with Adam. I think Deloqua would beat him again. And the thing that really confuses me about this race, if Jamie's gone off, Adam, is that's an incredibly frustrating race to talk about, because if Thursday morning, before we're recording the podcast, if Delacroix is 11-4, then it's the easiest race to preview in the world. This is simple. Just back Delacroix. Don't complicate your mind. But because he was 10-11, you're inclined to have to go off and find something else, which is great, by the way. Hot as Hell finishes 4th, having been back to 33s. Great, thanks very much. But you would back Delacroix. How did he drift out to 11-4 and then correct just before the off?
But is that not just the nature of racing these days, that things change? Scandinavia was basically, when we spoke after the Goodwood Cup, you could get Scandinavia at 6-4 for the St. Leger, which looked a value price. Yet he's 9-4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with Delacroix. It's just a question of price. And actually, if you just watch the Juddmonte back, Delacroix was not an odds-on shot because it didn't run that well in the Juddmonte. Now, there might be excuses, there might be reasons, but he didn't run that well. That's why drifts out. And of course, if you thought you'd get 11-4, you'd have filled your boots. Because he was basically 11-4 to beat one horse. It was realistically only Admar who had the form in the book that would suggest he might give him a race. The best 2 horses finished 1-2, and if Delacroix had gone off at 11-4, it'd be very fair. That's just the nature of racing now. But if you listen to this podcast last week, if you listen to other podcasts, plenty of people were keen to take him on, and I understand that too, because the Delacroix that turned up on Saturday was a completely different horse to the Delacroix that ran well below par in the Juddmonte. In the same way that the Ombudsman that didn't quite get home at Sandown was a completely different horse to the one that ran in the Prince of Wales. What both of them are is top-class 10 furlong horses who have the ability to run below par when the race isn't run to suit.
Succinctly and eloquently put. Anything else from the race to take out? I would actually favour Hot as Hell, and it might be just like the fat guy in the milkshake store clutching at straws trying to find something back. But I'd favour him over White Birch for the Champion Stakes, particularly in soft ground.
Would you not put him up to 1.5 now? He seems to get going at the mile and 2, and then you go again. Do you know what I mean? Like, because remember you beat Delacroix on the Future last year.
Yeah.
Soft ground, a mile and a half maybe for him.
I think soft
Don't
ground Ascot would be fine. He's not going to have. He won't be able to. He wouldn't be able to cope with a powerful turn of foot like Ombudsman or Cheltenham. Like they'd just destroy him.
No, I agree. Yeah.
But he could plug on into second or third, and if the race goes his way, if it's one of those silly races on really heavy, horrible ground, it could end up just playing to his strengths massively. So White Birch would also be an interesting player. There's not a whole lot between those two.
Yeah. I kind of fancy White Birch more, Emma, because I think because of the gap of these races that I know it's about another month the English Champion Stakes, but he was so he's been off a while, and I don't think he was fully tuned anyway for the Irish Champion Stakes. So if there's soft heavy and in Ascot, I will back him. Yeah, definitely. I really like him. And you can't discount Emmet as well after winning it last year as well.
He did beat Augusta Rodin, and Augusta Rodin is. If Augusta Rodin was still in training, I think he'd be beating a lot of these horses.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely a horse to keep on side for sure. Anything else to mention, Georgia?
No, I think I like Emmet for Champions Day, but yeah, nothing else. I think.
Final question. While I think of it, if you're able to persuade Michael Tabor, because Tabor was interviewed, and he kind of threw a bit of a grenade out there. He's like, "Well, I want to keep going. Keep him racing next year. Let's go." That's clearly not what the majority of the partners want to say. So maybe he's just playing up to things. But if you were able to persuade them to go one more roll of the dice, where would you go? And would you drop him back to a mile?
I mean, there was talk of that. I'm still not convinced Field of Gold will be back for Champions Day, but him against Field of Gold? I'm not convinced at all that we're going to see him again. If we do, I think it will be Champions Day. I don't think they'd ever risk going to the Breeders' Cup or anything, and I don't think they're probably already booking him in mares now. I don't think next year is even going to be a question. Unfortunately, he's such a big, good-looking horse, and mentally, he's getting straighter now. York wasn't the place for him. Too much thinking, walking across the track, etc. But next year you'd have to think, okay, it might be a long winter for his rider, Mark Crean, but. He would have been a monster.
Yeah.
But
it's frustrating because they kept Camelot in training. They've kept many good horses in training. Augusta Rodin very recently, but City of Troy, 2 seasons and done. Delacroix, we're only really getting to see how good he is this season. So really only once, like he said, a juvenile season, but his classic campaign is where it's been really the superstar done. Bloodstock industry is just worth a whole lot more. There's far more money to be made by a horse being a stallion than there is racing for prize money, unfortunately. So I get it. It's frustrating, but I get it. Send us Delacroix merch, please, Team Coolmore. Kevin Buckley, Georgia, Adam, Jamie, and I would be very grateful of Delacroix caps. We will wear them on every single appearance with Peter Michael and keep reminding him about how Delacroix would have Ombudsman's lunch and his dinner every day of the week.
You have to get me on an episode with Peter Michael and tell him exactly what Delacroix is better than Ombudsman.
No, I'm not being associated with that gibberish. Not every day of the week. No.
Play along, Adam.
No, I don't need late night threatening phone calls from Peter Michael. No, I'm not agreeing with that at all. I don't think that's true. I think in certain circumstances, Delacroix could reverse the form, but in other circumstances, Ombudsman would outstay him. So it's not as straightforward as just thinking Delacroix is going to reverse the form, because they're both inconsistent. And Cheltenham going to beat the pair of them.
Yeah. And he does.
Whoa.
You snuck that one in there at the end. I was almost agreeing with you.
Cheltenham's going to beat the two of them.
You should take that back. Nonsense. What a load of tripe. I'm sure somebody, it may very well be Peter Michael, is commenting on YouTube below going, "You guys know nothing, absolute nonsense, this is rubbish, Ombudsman's the greatest horse to ever do it. No one's ever been as good as Ombudsman." Yeah, okay. That's the Irish Champion Stakes. Hopefully we see Delacroix one more time, but it's the frustrating thing about flat racing, which means, don't worry about it, Jumps Racing's on the way back, and Paul Ferguson will be on the podcast tomorrow talking about novice chasers and second season hurdlers to look forward to. There will also be an exclusive discount for the Weatherby's Paul Ferguson jumpers to follow. I think it's £3 off, and it's the biggest discount you get anywhere. So make sure you're with us on the Final Furlong podcast tomorrow for a Weatherby special with our good friend Paul Ferguson. We're looking forward to that. To the
I guarantee your comments after the Paul Ferguson thing, everyone will say, it's September.
Oh, yeah. Well, what do you think they said when Gavin Lynch and I went to the Curragh to record a jumps preview, even though it was all to highlight the incredible charity work he does? Actually, it wasn't as bad this year. It wasn't as bad this year as it has been previous years. I think people's mentality is starting to go, yeah, just talk about whenever you want. Like the second the Grand National is run, okay, Jamie, who do you think is going to win the Gold Cup? We'll just start the... Much to Georgia's delight, the National Hunt chat will begin much earlier. Do you watch jumps racing at all, Georgia?
Yeah, I watch the big days, but I am just a flat girl, really.
Okay, let's find out. Let's put your knowledge to the test. Who's going to win the Gold Cup, Georgia?
Georgia,
6 years old. I'm just a flat girl.
I'm just a flat girl. I'm going to leave it at that.
Who's going to... Is it going to be the defending champion, I know the way you're thinking, or can Galopin Deschamps roll back the years and win the Gold Cup as a 10-year-old?
None of them will win it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jamie.
And who is it going to be then, Georgia?
Well, Galopin Deschamps was disappointing at Cheltenham, wasn't he? He's got some big old knee action on him.
Name a horse other than those two that could win the Gold Cup this season.
Something with Cheltenham form.
You know what, Georgia? You could actually make it as a...
Georgia, you're learning.
You could make it as a National Hunt pundit. Easy game. The Georgia Cox jumps special. He's got Cheltenham form. That'll do. Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The Georgia Cox jump racing show. That's coming soon on a channel near you.
Yeah. We'll get you your own YouTube channel. We'll get you all set up. We'll get a few cross appearances. We'll get it'll be great. Okay, the oldest classic in the world, the St. Ledger, goes to Aidan O'Brien yet again. It's his 9th win in the race. It's back-to-back... 3 wins now on the spin. The frustrating thing from my perspective is that I've been saying for the last couple of years that basically Aidan O'Brien is just going to win the St. Ledger every single season because he has the horses that are bred to really excel at those distances because everybody else is so obsessed with speed and precocity and then they don't have stayers. And then they're shocked that they can't win the Derby in the St. Ledger. Although Roger Varian went bloody close this year. The thing that's annoying me is that for the last 2 years, I've been wrong. I went with Illinois last year. I went with Lambourn this year. I'm a fool, especially when Adam and I were talking about how Scandinavia was an absolute good thing after the Bahrain Trophy. Never mind Goodwood. And that's why we were so keen on Scandinavia for the Goodwood Cup. So, look, I'm going to go and learn a bit more, I guess. But Scandinavia is now a dual Group 1 winner. He's completely unexposed as a stayer, totally unexposed in cheek pieces. And he may not have been as classy as some people might have liked at the weekend, Georgia, but he was gutsy.
Yeah, I think he'll be seen to better effect on quicker ground. He's just a relentless galloper, isn't he? I think Illinois was probably thinking, thank God, as he can now take the baton as a cup horse. As you know, Illinois, I think, has been ruined from trying to be pushed in that direction. And it'll be interesting to see how he fares against Trawlerman next year. He's definitely one who I think will want an honest gallop. And at first, after the first furlong, I was worried Tom and Sean thought it was between them and they were going to cut each other's throats, but they did manage to get a breather in. And it's interesting as it is a route that Aidan hasn't taken before. He's 8 previous Ledger winners. Only Leading Light went on to take the Gold Cup, and none of them have ever done it before the Ledger. So it is interesting, and now it will be interesting to see if he participates in the Melbourne Cup or not. And I am a believer in Rahib. I don't think that was a fluke. I think, he's Ascot form. He is a big baby, and he is. I see him out on the heath on Newmarket. He's naughty. He goes out with one other horse. He's raw. He's massive. And mentally, I think he's the one that's going to come forward the most in the future. It's going to be a long winter for Tony Proctor, who rides him every day. He used to be John Gosden's head travelling lad. He rides him out every day. And yeah, they have an outdoor arena where they trot, and they call it the Coliseum. And they say the least time possible that he's in there is the best because he's so bad. So I think I wouldn't even be on that ground. It depends on ground. They both want different grounds. So,
well, Rahib has paid a massive compliment to Merchant, who'd already had a compliment from Wimbledon Hawkeye going to America and winning the Nashville Derby. And now Rahib finishes second in the St. Leger. So we await Merchant's return to the track with great interest. Georgia was alluding to the fact that this horse is going to be clashing with Trawlerman at some point. They could indeed go down under. It's been talked about. I would completely understand Aidan O'Brien never wanting to send a racehorse to Australia ever again. But he is Coolmore's primary trainer, and they have a massive stud farm in Australia, and they're huge supporters of Australian racing. So the owners are going to want to go at some point, and it may very well be with him. What do you make of him for the rest of the season? If he goes if he goes down under, what do you make of that? If he was to go to Champions Day and take on Trawlerman, does he have a hope in hell against the best stayer in training?
What do I think of that? If he was mine, I'd put him away for next year. Would be my plan, because 4-year-olds have a superb record in the Ascot Gold Cup.
Yeah.
9 winners since 2011. This horse is not. Well, I'm reluctant to use the word not classy because he's a multiple Group 1 winner. He's got loads of form. But I think as we saw Royal Ascot this year, he's still maturing. This was one of those St. Ledgers where it's not about class. You don't need to travel. What you need to do is just be relentless, which is what he is. 14 furlong race. None of the 7 runners managed to run 3 consecutive fastest furlongs. It kept changing. In the final 5 furlongs, there were 4 horses that ran the fastest split, and Scandinavia wasn't one of them at any point. But what Scandinavia does, he just gallops on. And when we look at rankings, so like his stride length, he's ranked in 2nd. His maximum stride length is 6th. Stride frequency is only 3rd. His top speed is 5th. He's not like he's put in one burst of speed to win this. He just keeps going. If this had been over 2 miles, he'd have won by even further. He is a genuine staying type, but he will need a pacemaker. This year we saw Trawlerman win at York in a really messy race because he had a touch of class to get himself out of trouble. Scandinavia is not going to do that. Scandinavia is going to need 2 miles where there's an honest gallop and he can really keep the revs up. But if he gets those scenarios, surely he has got to be at least giving Trawlerman something to think about. And that assumes that Trawlerman comes back next year in the same form that he's in now. Scandinavia is going to be a better 4-year-old stayer than Illinois has been. And I know Illinois' season has been interrupted effectively because Kyprios got injured, so they had to find a replacement. But I think Scandinavia is a much better horse than Illinois, and I think he'll prove it. But I think it would also be a mistake to go to Ascot and take on Trawlerman in his current form, because that Ascot race is probably not going to have the biggest field. There's a lot of horses in this staying division who are quite frankly not good enough.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to be is in a battle with Trawlerman over 3 furlongs where everything else, the likes of Sweet William and Coltrane and whatever else will be churned out for that race, just isn't good enough. So I think you'd need to be very careful about how you planned it. You'd need to put a pacemaker in, just partly to annoy John Gosden, but more to the point because it's just you need that scenario. You have to have a way of making sure that this is truly run. Because Scandinavia will not win one of those staying races that develops into a sprint. He needs to keep the revs up, and if he does that, I think he'd be superb. I take your point about Rahib, but I would also say Rahib was ridden to finish that way, and that was a good move to go to the far rail. I don't think for one moment Scandinavia wouldn't confirm this form with Rahib. I think Scandinavia is £10 better than Rahib, and the form would suggest there's not that much between them. But Rahib was ridden to finish.
I completely agree with that. I just remembered something. John Gosden going on with pacemakers. What was Sweet William's role in the Gold Cup? Anybody remember? Totally different ownership?
No. Think about how quirky Sweet William is. There's no way you could use Sweet William.
Desperately unfair. Desperately unfair. He's not. He's a horse with character. But he's not a cork bag. He just isn't. It's just, I'm not having that. That was any horse, and we talked about this on TalkSport 2 on Friday, any quirky horse throws that race away on Friday. It's over at the start.
No, I'm not in the finish, but at the start and the stalls, Sweet William is quirky. John Gosden said so himself. He said, we did practice at home to get him out the stalls quicker. And he said, if you do that, and Sweet William looked at him and said, if you do that again, I'm not coming out. So you can't put a pacemaker in who's trouble at the start.
So easy. Reel him in, baby. Trawlerman is undoubtedly the best stayer in training. There's absolutely no question of that, and he's going to take a hell of a lot of bidding next year. But I'm really interested to see what Scandinavia can do against him. I think Trollman would crush him at Ascot, Jamie. I'd love to see it. The two of them take each other on. It would be really interesting to see. In Scandinavia's favour, he's a classic winner. He's a Goodwood Cup winner, and he's a classic winner. He's got 2 Group 1s to his name this season. He's going to be the improving horse for next season, and he can strengthen up over the winter and be even more dangerous. So he's very exciting for a Gold Cup. But what do you make of him as a Gold Cup prospect next season? Because Illinois has proven it's not always easy to just take these horses off the Ballydoyle production line. Yes, Kyprios was special. Yes, Yates was special. Yes, Leading Light did it. But there have been a few they've had over the years that looked like they were ready-made replacements for Yates and then Kyprios, and it turns out,
Jeez, I thought I was listening to Les Dennis again, but anyway, yeah, I agree with Adam. I really want to see him in Ascot, but I don't, because I think it would ruin him. And exactly what George said at the start made an absolute great point, is that he'd be better on better ground instead of going around soft ground against trying to beat Trollerman in a sprint, and they'll get batting early 3 furlongs out, the bell ringing, and around they go to Ascot, and all of a sudden then you'd wonder what it's like then to face Trollerman, who can go any pace, can go fast, slow, indifferent, go from the front, doesn't make a difference. I think that'd be a shock to him at this present moment of his development. But he's turned the form around with Further, Rahib, and Karmers, and he's just a slow burner. I think what they should do is put him away, but they won't. They'll go to Ascot. I just have this feeling they'll go to Ascot. But anyway, the one horse I'll take out of the race, and we've been banging on about this horse for a long time, Emmet, is Stay True. Put him back to 1.5 miles, and if no one hardly turns up in that Hardwick next year at Ascot, I know who I'll be backing for the Hardwick next year, is Stay True, because he travelled like the winner. He did, but he just didn't. He's still a slow. I think he's another slow burner as well, but I think he's not a 1.6 miles, or he's a 1.5 miles or 12 furlong horse. I'd be very interested in him next year. I really would. What's that? He's 4th run. Barcelona give him a good ride for Barcelona. Not cribbing Barcelona, but I am. But
not cribbing Barcelona as he gives him a complisult.
Yeah. But no, on all jokes aside, I thought it was a very good run by him, and I'd be interested in him next year. But I have backed Scandinavia for next year's Ascot Gold Cup in a stupid whatever bet I've had along with Cheltenham. But we'll get into that another day. But I really do think he's a massive danger next year to Trollerman, because exactly what Adam said, he's a slow burner, and I hope they don't ruin him by taking on Trollerman on Champions Day. That's just me.
No, I agree with you. I agree with Stay True as well. I think he could be a Coronation Cup horse, maybe, depending on what they decide to unleash in that race next year, but he's still very exciting. This was the first Derby winner to run in the race, Georgia, since Camelot in 2012. And that was one of the reasons that I really liked Lambourn. I thought going up in trip was going to improve him. He was given a pretty bold front-running ride from Sean Levy, and he folded like a cheap deck chair towards the end of the race. What do you do with Lambourn now?
I think that is the big question. When you asked me to come on the podcast, and then I listened to your podcast, and everyone was tipping Lambourn, and I said he'd never win a race again. Gosh, I could be in for a grilling here. Thank God he did. But then, I don't know, I didn't even mean it as an insult. I meant it as he's had 2 hard races in the Derby.
And you did mean it as an insult, Georgia. Don't be lying.
And
you said he's finished. The worst Derby winner of all time. He'll never win a race.
I did not say that. Do not say that.
And to be fair, anyway, so far, you're 2 from 2, and you're right.
At York, Lydia Hislop even asked Aidan, has he had an injury? Because his neck looked so hollow and light. And I thought that as well. You know, Delacroix is such an imposing horse. Lambourn is not. And I think he's had a hard time, and he's not, like, I don't know. I just think he's tapped out. And I have no idea what they're going to do with him next, to be honest.
Georgia, does your he'll never win another race also apply to the Triumph Hurdle?
Oh.
Yeah, maybe I'll put him up.
What does the TPD data tell us about his ability to pop a few hurdles at him?
Right. I'm not. That was a tongue-in-cheek joke that I made off air, and this is Adam went in.
To be clear, that's my wording. Adam did not in any way say, the data tells us this horse is going to be a great jumper.
You know what? Well, James Willoughby did a great piece on Nick Luck's show yesterday, and he said maybe he's a 10 furlong horse, and his pedigree would suggest he might be. The one thing the data might tell us is that he's moody, because there's a real peak in this race, and also at York to a degree. It's kind of like he's fine when he's bowling along in front and he's got his own way and he's quite comfortable. And I just wonder if having to work that hard in the Irish Derby pushed Lambourn mentally over the edge. And now he's looking, when horses come alongside, he's like, I'm not going there again. That hurts, and I'm quite happy. I've done my bit. Drops his tools because he just folded tamely, and then he's kind of galloped on at the one pace. Like, there's still something there, but I'm not going to go any further. What would I do with him? Put him away. The last thing this horse needs is another race. Put him away. See what you've got in the spring. If you just looked at the Derby and the Irish Derby form, it would raise question marks, because the best horses in those races were a long way back and didn't run their race on the day for whatever reason. Delacroix is a good example. You might even say the horse that won at York, Pride of Arras, is another one. And the horses that got quite close to Lambourn, we haven't seen a lot of Lazy Griff, but the likes of New Ground and a few others, it's open to question. I think mentally he needs a break. Physically, he probably needs a break. And realistically, what are they hoping for from Lambourn as a sire? What are they hoping for? I think Delacroix is their main standing hope. Lambourn, if he went to stud now, would end up as a national hunt sire. So there's nothing to lose by bringing him back as a 4-year-old and seeing what he can do. He's a front-running horse, which is always an advantage, particularly in the early season. Why not give him a break, bring him back out, and if he won on his comeback, then you'd know he's back. And if not, you haven't lost a great deal. I think he's a really nice horse, but I think that this might be something mental rather than physical. And I just wonder if one of those races really hurt, and now he's in the case of, I'm all right, put my tools down. And let's face it, if you read between the lines at Ballydoyle, if they had a dual Derby winner and they put him in the St. Ledger, isn't that fine? Imagine if last year he'd gone, you know what we're going to do is City of Troy, we're going to campaign him for the St. Ledger.
Yeah.
There'd be alarm bells ringing all over the place. Because they did it with Lambourn, he didn't run that well in the Great Voltage. He ran a very similar race here. Put him away, see what you got. There's nothing to lose as a 4-year-old. But maybe the Derbies he won just fell in the right way for him. And in hindsight, there were clearly a lot of better horses around who've just come well past him.
To be fair, if City of Troy hadn't bombed out in the 2,000 guineas, he may very well have gone for the St. Ledger to try and win that Triple Crown, because Coolmore are determined to try and do it at some point, and might have saved them a lot of hassle with the Breeders' Cup Classic as well. But in any case, they decided to go for that. It's a third Classic win for Justify in only 2 seasons. Derby win with City of Troy, 2,000 guineas with the late great Ruling Court, and now the St. Ledger with Scandinavia. He's a very, very exciting sire. What do you do with Lambourn? All joking aside, I really liked him, and I was really bullish of a big run from him, Jamie. I was just very underwhelmed by him.
It's in the name. Send him to Nicky Henderson.
Oh.
Hey, he needs backup for Constitution Hill.
All jokes aside, I think you'd exactly what Adam says. It's either two things. You either put him away or you just retire him and let him sire national hunt horses that may win a Midlands National around Utah. And I leave it at that.
It's a fairly sad state of affairs, though, that you've got a dual Derby winner and everybody is just immediately going, well, jump sire. And the fact that he's running the St. Ledger means that exactly what he's going to be, because you enter the gate for the St. Ledger, you're a jump stallion. That's it.
Yep.
Pretty sad. Pretty sad that that's the way it is. These Wooden Bassets keep on winning, though. He was a European champion 2-year-old, or at least a Group 1 winning 2-year-old anyway, and didn't train on as a 3-year-old. His best form was over 7 furlongs in a mile. And yet Wooden Basset is producing Al Refit to win the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, which wasn't a great running of that race that year. And then 2-3 seasons later, he's back and he wins the Irish St. Ledger and does so really, really impressively. I know the lads weren't impressed with the ride from Ross Ryan on Amalok. I don't know, maybe he did have him in front a little bit too quickly, but Al Refit picked him up and made him look pretty ordinary. And I'm pretty certain, Georgia, that Amalok is not an ordinary horse. I didn't see this coming from Alrifa. I genuinely didn't. I got to hold my hands up and say, I got this horse badly wrong. Hats off Jamie Wrenn. He was spot on about him. He called him out right after he won the Michael John Kennedy Cup, saying, St. Ledger's over, give it to him in Ireland. Fair play, Jamie. You got paid. I felt like a right clown. Georgia, what did you make of the performance?
Won't be the first time.
It won't be the last either.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Wood and Bassett might not have trained on, but it's all the Galileo mares he's covering now. A 6th individual Group 1 winner this year, more than any other stallion worldwide. Carl Burke did say to Clifford Lee that he didn't go fast enough at York last time and Al Kareem, and he certainly set a good gallop this time with David Egan and keeping him honest. And, I mean, they were strung out. They, like jumpers, it disheartened a lot of them who never got involved. I thought Al Kareem did well to keep going for third. Ilaloin just has no zest in him anymore and needs a break probably. And it'll be interesting to see what weight Alfuri gets in the Melbourne Cup. He's now owned by the same owners as Vauban, who's also going to the Melbourne Cup again for Gay Waterhouse this time. And Almaloch, I still am a believer in Almaloch. I just think her first attempt up in trip, sitting so quite fairly close to a hot pace, paid in the last furlong. Yeah. He's still a very interesting horse. And, I mean, aspirations for the Breeders' Cup will be interesting.
Well, we saw a couple of horses that I thought would be very interesting for the Breeders' Cup turf, although one of them, owners immediately ruled it out. That's Convergent, who we'll talk about in a little bit. It's a smart performance, Adam, from Alrifa. I mean, the signs were there. He was placed behind Rebels Romance in the Hardwick Stakes. He was second to City of Troy in an Eclipse. He's a German Group 1 winner. And he was very, very impressive over this trip at the Curragh before. But to do it in a Group 1 was not an easy thing. And he's made them look pretty ordinary.
Yeah, he really has. When you mentioned Alrifa, I saw Jamie Wrenn with a little smug smile. I thought, I'll let him have his thunder. He was absolutely right. I really thought Amalok ran a massive race. And yet, at the 2 furlong pole, I looked and thought, oh, no. What is this thing swinging next to him? Because he's going to pick him up. And he really did, really asserted. Good luck to him in the Melbourne Cup. Is Alrifa just one of those horses that sometimes is disappointing? And so because of that, we forget that he's a multiple Group 1 winning top-class horse on his day for Arlem. I'll pass the floor to Jamie Wrenn because I can see that smug smile is about to spread as he talks about one of his favourite horses.
I'm not. Do you think I'm not a smug person, Adam Mills? Jesus. Never do that before in my life.
You stop waffling, we might get some work done.
Yeah. Jeez, I'm far from Bertie Ahern anyway, but we won't get it with him. We'll have a pint of Bass. I just know, all jokes aside, I just saw it with the eye on when he won I always call it the Actor Races Curragh Cup. He was crying out for the step and trip. He really impressed me on the eye that day, and I thought there was nothing to beat him. I don't know why people are cribbing the right on Amalok. He was never going to beat him. Never going to beat him. Didn't Brown McMahon went up the straight and he took a pull. I go, this is over now. Time to collect. Bend down, pick it up. Melbourne Cup, they're definitely going to the Melbourne Cup because those owners won it in 2014 with Protectionist. He's been bought to win the Melbourne Cup. Would I back him for the Melbourne Cup? Look at the way he ran in the Ledger. He was far back. If he's that far back in a Melbourne Cup, not a hope. Because you know yourself in the Melbourne Cup, it's like an American race at the start. They sprint all the way to the corner, slow it down to halfway, crawl into the far corner, and then sprint for home. I don't think that in suit Alrifa.
Yeah.
I think if it's an all-round fast-paced Melbourne Cup, they don't stop. They'll fall in a hole, and then he'll win. But if they do it like a normal Melbourne Cup, like they always do, no, that won't suit him at all. But I suppose his career's now going to be down under, I think, isn't it? Because it's Australia et al. Won that horse. It's a pity because I think I'd love to see him in the Stairs division with the Scandinavian Trawlerman. And that's just my honest opinion. I really would. But look, that's life when you get over it and he has to go down under. But Melbourne Cup, he's going to be favourite now, probably, is he? No, he wouldn't be for me. I think if he was over here in the UK and Ireland, I'd see him as a massive danger to Scandinavia and Trawlerman. I really would, because he's that high cruising speed, and he's a kick at the end, which trawler men in Scandinavia don't have.
If he blew out in the Melbourne Cup, Georgia, do you think there's a possibility they'd bring him back and go for the Gold Cup with him next season?
Apparently they're going to Hong Kong on the way back from the Melbourne Cup. So he's had a busy, long season. And apparently, they're Aussie owners now, but he is staying in training with Joseph O'Brien, and they do want an international campaign. So he is going to be going Middle East, all the rest of it. So,
So Dubai Cup, all those kind of races, the big Saudi Cup, those races? Obviously not the
I
Saudi
think
Cup
so,
on
yeah.
dirt, but the turf one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a lot of prize money to be won. And he can be a sire at some point. I mean, if Lambourn's going to be a sire, then this fella can be too. And he's now a Group 1 winner at 2, 4 and 5. But you're a Group 1 winner over mile 6 as a 5-year-old. The way he won that, I completely agree with Jamie. The way he won that race made me realise, I've been badly wrong about you. And I'd love to see him in a Gold Cup. I'd love to see him in a Gold Cup. I think he'd be a fascinating player in a very open division, and he's arguably the improving one coming through. Trollerman still sets the standard. Scandinavia would be fascinating, but he won that race so easily. You'd love to see him in that. And now for something completely different, the sprinters. So we did our first... You weren't on the show, Jamie, but we played our first spin the roulette sprint wheel of madness, or the roulette wheel of fortune, whatever it was. We spun the wheel. We asked the artificial intelligence to come up with 1, 2, 3, and the AI came up with the 13th place horse, the 12th place horse, and the 11th place horse. So that failed spectacularly. Thankfully, some of the team actually tipped the winner. Arizona Blaze goes in. Well done, Andy Newton, and well done to the listeners who did the double on Arizona Blaze and Zavateri. Nicely done. He'd been really fancied for the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes. He disappointed there, but he'd been very good at the Curragh before that. David Egan had chosen him, despite the fact that Buccaneer Forte had been aimed at this race for a while, Georgia, and David's having a fantastic season. He's a brilliant jockey, and he got this spot on.
Yeah, David deserves it. He's such a hard worker, and 6 Group 1 sprints this year. 8 Group 1 sprints this year, 8 different winners. These sprinters just can't seem to put 2 good runs together. I actually tipped him on here at York, and I just thought there wasn't any excuses after that. They said the ground was too fast and the track was too sharp, but he finished second in a Breeders' Cup over 5 on firm ground at Del Mar. So I just thought after that I sort of was finished with him, but he looked the winner the whole way. He bounced out, he travelled, and he got the job done. For me, Brad Sell should have stayed in training, and he would have mopped up all these races. It was no vintage sprint. They all finished in a bunch behind. Asfora had the perfect pitch, but just couldn't get a grip on the ground. And you'd like to think that, her participation in the Abbey would be in question after that. It just seemed to blunt her speed. And you also think he'd probably stay in training again next year now, with the fact that these sprinters are so hit and miss. If he can, Yeah, and just 40 minutes after Zavateri gave without parole his sire first Group 1 winner, he did the same with Sergei Prokofiev.
So the guy Prokofiev, who I talked about quite a bit on the Final Furlong podcast back in his racing days, didn't expect him to become a Group 1 sire at all. And if you had told me, Georgia, that horse that's going to go for the Coventry Stakes, at some point he'll be a Group 1 winning sire, I'd have laughed at you. It's amazing. Again, there's no exact science to this sport. It's amazing how things can work out. 2 questions for you, Georgia. Question number 1. You mentioned about him being kept in training next season. Keija Bracken did say in his very interesting Racing TV interview that this is a stallion-making race, and so he was very keen for David to ride him because they need him to be a sire. That sounded to me like he's going to be off to stud at the end of the season.
He was on Nick Lutt's podcast today, and he said that he didn't think the division was great, and they thought about keeping in training next year, which I think is a fair point. It's not a great decision.
Terrible.
Who's coming through? There's so many right now. It's this massive change of who's staying in training to take advantage of a weak division, because so many of them are hit and miss.
Well, interestingly, maybe Gstaad would actually be really suited, or Gstaad, whichever one it is. Maybe he'd be suited for going back to 6 front because he's such a big horse. But Revival Power is a really interesting one for the Sprints division next season. But he is the one that has the potential to dominate. There's nothing else that can do that. So that was question number 1 for you. And question number 2, I didn't realize Kia was on Nick's show this morning. Did Kia, by any chance, happen to mention anything about any other horses he has in training that were mysteriously gelded without his say-so?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's running today, isn't he? Has he already ran? I didn't look him up. The Wooden Basset.
So did he say who the horse is?
Yeah, it's running today. It's their only runner today.
Has he won?
I've forgotten his name now. I don't know. I haven't had time to look, to be fair.
Oh, we're going to find out. We're going to find out what the story is with that horse. That's bizarre.
He won first time out. He won first time out already for Kevin, and he runs again today.
Okay. Was it for Kevin Ryan?
Kevin Philippard Defoy.
Of course.
Are you referring to Rocky Guana?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
He runs tonight at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So he's a Wooden Basset who was gelded before he made his debut, and apparently that is not what Kia wanted. The views of Kia Jabrakan are not necessarily those of Rafe Beckett or anybody associated with him. We've got to get Kia on the show. It was the one thing that annoyed me yesterday was I didn't get a chance to talk to him in the parade ring at the Curragh. We got to get that man on the podcast. Absolute legend. All right, Adam, what did the data tell us about the performance? What did you make of Arizona Blaze?
I give up. I give up with the sprint division. The only thing we got right about this race was really that we see, Asfora hasn't backed up her last 4 wins. That's now 5. I don't know. You could lose everything following the sprint division, because much like Emmet, I keep looking and then I went, Night Raider didn't run that badly and he's finished 5th. So that he does just enough to make you think there's a race in him, but it's never going to be one.
There is a race in him, Adam. There is a race in him on the synthetic track.
Yeah, there is possible. I wonder if they might even consider maybe trying to experiment on the dirt with him and see what happens. But no, I don't. This is me done. I'm done with this sprint division, because I saw a couple of horses run at Paris Longchamp yesterday for the Prix de l'Abbé, when you think, what if they could do it? But just throw the balls up in the air. Arizona Blaze decided that his was his day. He put his head down. I can understand why they want to keep him in training. But the 5 furlong sprint division is just like, what a complete mess. And eventually you just have to draw stumps and go, you know what, I'm just not going to solve this puzzle. It's just too complicated. And whilst Arizona Blaze was clearly the best yesterday, the one word Georgia used there is if he does this next time. And it's a massive if, because they don't do it. They all seem to take it in turns. And I know sprinters are moody and they're difficult and sometimes they're quirky, and that's why they're sprinters, but just... I don't know. I'm at the point now where I look back this season and thought, other than Lazat and the Queen Elizabeth, what sprinter have you got right? And the answer is none of them.
That's pretty much for all of us, though. It's just been a terrible division. You keep beating one another. You can't really fancy anything in it. I was just thinking there might be a bet. Well, first of all, More Thunder is going to win the Champions Sprint. That's one we can all agree on, I'm pretty sure. And secondly, maybe you just do a scumbag each-way double on Arizona Blaze for the King's Stand next year and Lazat for the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes, because they'll both be revved up to the eyeballs to go and win those races, and they'll both probably win them.
If the sprint division's unpredictable race to race, 9 months in advance, that'd be quite ballsy.
This is how we fix it. This is how we fix it.
Right.
We place a bet 10 months in advance. Can't get beat. Just do a patent with Zavateri for the Guineas. Happy days. See you in Dubai. Not impressed, Jamie.
No, it was funny actually. I was inside yesterday after the third day of the wedding. I had the message written out for you and saying, Night Raiders after winning. And he looked the winner. I had the message text out and I goes, yes, go on, will you? But I didn't back him this time. No, I wouldn't back him on that ground. But when he was coming up the straight, I was like, oh no. But then he didn't see it out. Yeah, I agree with Adam. It's getting ridiculous now. It's just you just spin the wheel of fortune. You say consonant, please, Carol. Vowel. Consonant, please, Carol. Can I have 2 numbers at the top and 4 below? It's just like countdown and wheel of fortune. Like it's terrible. Like It's like Father Dougal. Remember Emmet? Constant, please, Carol. With an Irish shirt. But it's just like I just don't know what to do anymore, and I'm like scratching my head. I have done a patent for Champions Day, and I have done a patent. I've done more Thunder for the Champions Sprint. I've done Never So Brave, which I'm worried about for the QV2, and I did the one Adam Mills said for these Emirs, Latakia. So if they all win, I'll be off to Dubai or Barbados for the winter. But
Nice.
But all jokes aside, no, it's a terrible division, and I know Revival Power won the weekend, but I was more disappointed that Mission Central is not that great either. But so I don't know what to say about it anymore. As you say, it's like constant, please, Karen.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. The only points to make really about the sprint division is some bookmaker is going to price overnight Night Raider for one of those Group 3s on the synthetic track, and they're going to go something stupid like 11-4, 9-4, and just smash it. Just take it, because he won't be that price on the day, and he'll absolutely murder those horses. But this division, nah, can't do it. Coolmore America Justified Matron Stakes goes to Fallen Angel. She was second in the race a year ago. It's also easy with the benefit of hindsight. Georgia, obviously she was going to win. There was no Porta Fortuna to take on this time. She'd beaten January last time out in France. She's clearly a very, very talented filly, and she was going to have ground that suited her. It didn't need to be. It wasn't the firm ground that she was facing at Royal Ascot. It was proper, just nice ground for her to be able to go and win, and she's done it. There was a massive gamble on Exactly. She's run a really big race. Donica's horse has promised an awful lot. Astilia, she's finally delivered. Cathedral ran well. Serene is probably as good as she really is. And January's a frustrating horse. What did you make of the race?
Yeah, exactly that. There's two things that I think Fallen Angel needs: a bit of cut underfoot and an aggressive ride to be seen at her best, and she got both of these here. She's now won 3 Group 1s in Ireland, and Carl Burke does so well overseas. I mean, the amount of the big chunk of prize money he took home on the weekend. He had 5 runners in Group 1s, and she clearly likes going on her travels. She'll be in the Sun Chariot next time, so she'll have to try and do it on home ground against Cinderella's Dream and Lady of Spain, being the improver. I don't think there was any excuses for January. She's just disappointing. And yeah, I don't think there's that much more to say than that, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. She's a strong staying miler, that's what I'd say. And a really, really likeable horse. I think she'll take all the beating in the Sun Chariot Stakes. The Lady of Spain horse is very interesting, but really, Carl's horse should just go and win again and get another Group 1 win to her name. They've got a really interesting one in Convergent, Adam. And I think the owners of this horse want to aim high and not shoot low, really aim high. I mentioned the Breeders' Cup Turf to them, and they were like, no, instant dismissal of that idea. So I, annoyingly, didn't push them on where they were going to go. I did mention the German Group 1, and they were like, no. So could they go for the Arc with them?
Well, you'd have to think they'd have a go, at least, would they not? If you're gonna roll the big dice, you may as well roll the really big dice. There's no point trying to sort of plot your way. Have a go. That German Derby form looks all right. I mean, we haven't seen Hodgkönig, so we don't know. But
He should have won that race too, Adam.
I think it was track craft that got him beat. I think it was just knowing kind of how the track plays out there that maybe got him beat, but we don't know what beat him, so it's not impossible to think that's a really solid piece of form. He was miles the best in this race, and really 3-1 was a bit of a gift. Absolutely bowled up. I thought he was a touch of class, and it looked to me like a potential Group 1 performer in a Group 3 race, and that's what it was. Who knows? I mean, you can't really take too much from beating Fleetfoot and Sons and Lovers, because we know a little bit more about them, but he beat them easily. So if they were going to have a go, would you not roll the dice in the Arc and think, if we got a decent draw in a prominent position, we could maybe do some damage? I'm not sure. We don't really know exactly, but he is still improving, and that can't be said for too many in that field. No,
he's a really nice prospect going forward. I mean, you can definitely take a look at the race overall in terms of substance and form and say, well, Alassi maybe didn't run his race, but he's a nice horse, Georgia, who's probably he wants an easy life. He wants those small field races that he can boss and not go into a big field like this, but I wouldn't take anything away from Carl's horse. I think that he's a really exciting one going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alassi just needs to feel like he's Nijinsky, and he didn't quite get that here. But Carl's horse, I mean, he raced extremely fresh after 69 days off, had a nice run in second in the German Guineas.
Oh,
the first four shared the same position throughout.
That's the best in years. Stop, Georgia, please stop. No, I'm a pain in my side.
Are you going to be allowed ride work in Williams' yard now? Is he going to give you interviews? How dare you express an opinion and have some fun on a podcast, Georgia? How dare you?
No, the thing I was most impressed about with Carl's horse is how fresh he was early, and he took an absolute age to pull up.
Oh.
And only his fifth start, there's just so much upside to him.
Clifford was joking that they went all the way down to the 7 furlong start afterwards. He couldn't pull him up.
Yeah.
He could easily have gone round again. I love the performance from Fleetfoot as well. He's in new ownership colours, and obviously they backed him off the boards for the Ebor, which unfortunately didn't quite work out. But clearly he's a worse of talent, and one of these races will fall his way. But Convergent, that was a hugely impressive performance, Jamie, and he's definitely one I want to keep on side. Wherever he goes next, I want to be with him.
Yeah, I think they might draw stumps with him. He's that fresh. I'd like to see him mature, and he looks a really talented horse. But my little crib with him is that they want to go further with him. And I think they said that afterwards, that he might be better over further. Like, is he another cup horse to come into? But because he's so keen, you can put him anywhere, to be honest with you. I suppose, like, he had to beat that crowd. Do you know what I mean? That crowd, I'm calling him. Sorry for being ignorant. But, I mean, like, Sons of Lovers, what are they going to do? Melbourne Cup? With him, I think they're going there. To be honest with you, Sons of Lovers should end up in the county hurdle. And that's my problem with the farm. That's just me. That crowd love a county hurler. So,
they do.
Watch this space. So I could pull Kobe and make exactly what Georgia says. Lads, he thinks he's Nijinsky. I think that's the greatest comment I've heard in about 10 years when it comes to Matt. But anyway, yeah, he is a really talented horse, and exactly the most impressive part of the whole race I thought was when Clifford Lee couldn't pull him off and he went around the bend again. Yeah. So he's definitely talented. The form is not quite there yet, in my opinion. I'd like to see him in a better race against decent animals over a mile and a half next year. And look, as I said earlier, like stay true, he could be one next year for the Hardwick.
Isn't it so frustrating that Lambourn beat him quite easily and now is just gone at the game? Well, at least in 2 runs this season. Now, maybe he can bounce back. Maybe he can. And maybe James Willoughby is right. Drop him back to 10 furlongs and they won't see which way he's gone. A couple of 2-year-olds to talk about. Benvenuto Chiellini is sent off a very, very strong favourite in a race we told you was really simple. So hopefully you were going around Leopardstown telling everybody 320 O'Brien's horse. Can't get bet. The O'Brien horse gets stuck in. And one of the 4 O'Brien horses, of course, goes and wins. 2-1 on for Benvenuto Chiellini. Soumillon switches to him after being on Montreal. Don't really know what he's achieved, but the visual impression of what he did, Georgia, was very impressive.
Yeah, he's a really likeable horse who I think he looks much more straightforward than his sister Gazelle, if she's Lingfield Oaks trial winner. It's obvious to see she looks hard work. We haven't seen her since the Oaks, so it's obvious to see that that he hasn't beaten much here. A rather disappointing turnout of just 4 runners, but all he can do is win, and he did that. Wherever he turns up next, the Futurity or France, he should be a real contender. It'll be interesting to see where Super Sumi's original mount turns up next in Montreal, who was the late runner, and he swapped to an hour before racing, because how good is he if he was supposed to be the first string? And O'Brien's won this race before with Australia and Augustus Rodin, who both went on to Derby Glory, and Diego Blasquez, who as well, obviously Group 1 winner as well. I think there was word of the French Guineas, the French Derby, but I also think that Super Sumi was just then go to France with everything he got off of on the weekend. So it'd be interesting, but yeah, he looks like a nice horse.
He would be nice for the Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère. He would be nice for the... every French race gets a mention from Christophe, and why wouldn't he? That seems pretty reasonable, to be fair. He was good, Adam. Mogul won that race as well for Aidan O'Brien. Diego Velasquez, as Georgia said. Auguste Rodin, they're all subsequent Group 1 winners. He travelled like a horse who's going to win a Group 1.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. 4-runner race. I thought the second would probably maybe scrape to a mark of 100 at some point, but, come on. I just felt, I looked at this horse and then you start looking, you think, gosh, this is the Derby favourite and he's won a 4-runner race. And I just don't, I'll just sit on the fence. I don't really think we learned anything at the weekend at all when it's a field that small against opposition that probably aren't in the same league. So it was okay, but I thought there were horses at Doncaster who achieved more.
Okay, who are they?
First one will be Puerto Rico. I thought that was seriously impressive. And I know...
Shout out George Gorman. Shout out George Gorman who tipped him.
For Mr. Wrenn? Oh, got to trust me on the 2-year-olds. Look at his Zavateri ticket. But what I would say...
you dig that in.
Puerto Rico, I thought this was something to be excited by. And all the data backs up the visual impression that he's really dominated the race. Longest stride, best top speed, best run-out speed, fast at the start. Now, look, Gawan didn't run his race, and I felt like they were sort of, why don't you just let Gawan go? Look what he did at York. Well, why are we trying to battle on soft ground as well? Oxygen kind of didn't run his race maybe, but ignore all of that, because actually what happened was Puerto Rico just got them all out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice impression. I like that one. I do like Revival Power, but I think the rail definitely helped. Drawn in stall 11, having the fastest gate speed, getting out the stalls 30 miles an hour in 5.2 seconds, come to the stand side. On her top speed, she was 9th of 10, which would just be, it doesn't necessarily mean anything in particular, but I just feel like that race favoured her more than it favoured others. Whilst I wouldn't give up on Mission Central, I'm so disappointed because I really thought Mission Central would be brilliant. That didn't happen. The other thing that we should say at York is what happened to Moon Target, because that was another one that when we did the podcast, I think that ran really well. And the forms worked out really well, so God knows what happened there.
The form worked out brilliantly. The third horse goes and wins the Doncaster race. Precise goes and wins the Moigler. What the hell happened Moon Target?
Yeah, good question. You should probably ask Luke Morris. But I don't really understand what happened there. The race didn't pan out, maybe. Don't give up on Moon Target because the form's really good. But the other thing for me is there's a horse to take out of Doncaster, and it didn't run in a group race. It ran in a sales race. Calendar Girl produced something pretty special to win that 300 grand Weatherby's race. That was seriously special. And the final furlong, she was 0.43 seconds faster than any of the other 20 runners. That's about 3 lengths in the final furlong. Beat Song of the Clyde. The sales form taps out quite well. That's a group filly.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's a group performer for Owen Burrows. And he knows the time of day. If you see them decide to run in a group race with her before the end of the season, and I know she's in the Rockfell and she's in the listed race at Redcar, which would look a bit of a gift to my eye if they decided to go that route, whatever they try and do. That was a seriously good performance. And of all the horses I saw, Calendar Girl is the one I'm most keen to back next time.
Oh, I'm loving that. She was the first one on the 10-bet 10 to follow. And then it all went horribly wrong. Thanks, Moon Target. Thanks a bunch. Mission Central, spectacular, but Safi Osborne, ice cold. Really good performance. I quite like Classic Curvy as well, the sister to Legatissimo for Roger Varian, who beat Amelia Earhart, who was incredibly well backed towards the end of that race, or laid off for Christophe Soumillon and Aidan O'Brien. I think that's going to be good form. Speaking of the fillies, Precise does uphold that Goodwood form and improves again. She beats Beautify, who drifted like a barge, and Venetian Sun, who did really well, I thought, on a race that wasn't run to suit her and potentially on ground that wouldn't have suited her over a trip that I'm pretty sure she will stay, but on better ground. And Composing was just a little bit underwhelming, but Composing was on the front end, Georgia, so I'm prepared to forgive her that. And Aidan was saying he was thinking afterwards maybe he shouldn't have told her to go and make the running herself, that there should have been something in there to help her. But Precise was really good, and she's unexposed, and she's got a beautiful pedigree. Same for Beautify, same for Composing. And what did you make of Venetian Sun?
Yeah, Venetian Sun, I mean, I don't know if they really got their answer from that race. She looked to hit a bit of a flat spot. You couldn't say she didn't stay. I mean, she grabbed third in the Dying Strides, but I don't think they've really got a clear answer in terms of trip and what they're going to do next year. So, I mean, they said they'd put her away after this, but will they go again to try and find out more? I'm not sure. If they'd be tempted to. Precise, the form was Frank's Goodwood with Carl Burke's Mayhill winner Alalin and Ryan's Belt just getting touched off in a Group 3 Dick Pool Stakes. He became Galileo's 64th Group 1 winner as a Broodmare Sire and a Knights Group 1 winner for Star Spangled Banner. They've won the race with Minding, Love, Lake Victoria and all went on to classic success. Winning, you're in for the Breeders' Cup, which I think we'll see her next. Composing, they say the excuse was the headwind, but I mean, the Blandford Stakes winner made all, as did Arizona Blaze, as did the Sales race winner Alpa Larison.
That's a fair point.
So I'm not sure what to make of her, really, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe she's just Bedtime Story all over again. Really good at the start of the season and then tails off. I'm willing to forgive her, but it was a bit underwhelming. The fact that she was sent off even money would bode well for her, though, Jamie, because obviously they like her. I'm pretty certain the Coolmore team were of the opinion Composing was the best of them, but there's not actually a whole lot between these three, and any one of them could win it. And the fact that Precise was well backed late on, that would suggest she's a horse they really like.
Yeah, I suppose, but you think Filly's mile with her next, I think, maybe. Precise. I think the further she goes, the better she is, to be honest with you, Emmet. I actually had a bet today, this morning, for the Cheveley Park, and with the process of elimination, there's no True Love coming back. Wild Fixation and America Queen I don't really like. The way Beautify travelled into the race really, really impressed me. And I think back to 6 furlongs, she's won the Curragh obviously beforehand. 8-1 to find out at the moment with the process of elimination, most of these horses won't turn up in the Cheveley Park anymore. I think this Beautify is naturally a good thing for the Cheveley Park. I really do, because I don't think there's anything else there. Look at the way she travelled. Composing, I was very disappointed, to be honest with you, Emmet. I really was. Venetian Sun, I said on Joe's, I didn't think she'd stay regardless of the ground.
Yeah.
So she probably go back to the Cheveley Park. To me, I think the Cheveley Park, if Venetian Sun does come back to form, but see, with fillies, they're there and they have their time, and then they don't come back if they lose. And it's very hard to get the winning feeling back with some fillies, and that's just the way it is. I might be totally wrong by Venetian Sun. But if True Love doesn't turn up and comes back, that's another thing I'm going to repeat myself there again, is that True Love has had her defeat. Will she come back to Power Blue? But I think the way Beautify travelled in the race, she was the most eye-catching runner the whole weekend, I thought, at the Tours for Group Tours that were on display at the weekend. I'm all over for her for the Cheveley Park. I think she'll win it. She turns up.
Well, I'm of the opinion that the best horse, or at least of the three of the juvenile fillies, ran on the Saturday. That's Diamond Necklace, the daughter of St. Mark's Basilica. And they've got two choices to make with her now, Adam. You either go Filly's Mile with her, but you've got Precise for that as well, who's going to go to the Breeders' Cup too. You've got Composing, potentially, who you try and put in there. Beautify, I would agree with Jamie. I think she'll probably go for the Fillies race, the 6 furlong race instead. Or you go to France, which will suit Christophe Soumillon on Arc Day, the Prix Marcel Bouzek. So what do you do with Diamond Necklace, and how good do you think she is?
I think she's very good. I'm not sure that she beat a great deal on Saturday. Would that be fair? Sucania's kind of got a bit of form from the Goodwood race. Caught You Sleeping was third. I think Diamond Necklace was just a class above those. I'd imagine they go to France, but then maybe that's just Soumillon thinking I don't want to fly. So if you wouldn't mind just sending these horses over to me, life will be a bit easier. Don't fancy the Ryanair flight, but the French race is going to be interesting because I can't find a decent French 2-year-old colt that's going to. I think the Lagardère will go to Aidan O'Brien. I just can't find one that I really like, but I can find 3 or 4 for the Marcel Bouzek.
Yeah.
So whether Diamond Necklace is good enough, there's a horse called Ozone who really caught my eye at Leon last week, and then shortly after that, Green Spirit won again, and Green Spirit just looks like. Oh my God, she's a good 2-year-old. I don't know whether she'll train her, but this Green Spirit is just, that was something else last week to get herself out of trouble. So that's quite a deep race, but Aidan will surely have something in it from somewhere. He's got to split these up. Really good performance. We'll know more next time.
George, any comments on Diamond Necklace?
I mean, how confidently she's been ridden twice now just tells you her reputation at home. And like you said, you'd expect her to take a high rank among the fillies. There's nothing you can't like about her so far. 1.7 million sales topper after Magic Wand and Oaks winner Shakita. So, roll on the Rockfell, the Fillies Mile, or the Marcel Boussac, wherever she ends up.
So you're telling me my Oaks bet has a chance?
Yeah.
20-1 Zavateri, 20-1 Diamond Necklace, 25-1 and Aidan O'Brien 3 Juvenile for the Derby. Which one could it be? We'll discuss that in a future podcast. Just very briefly, Adam, the Japanese came over and won yet another trial, so they're going to feel really, really disappointed if they don't win the Arc this year. So obviously they won't win it. It's going to be some crack though if they finally end up winning it. But it's just, we've seen this too many times before. We know what's going to happen. There's going to be some 50-1 French horse is going to come down the outside and beat one of them. And I think it might be Darius. I thought he shaped really, really well. So I'm going to be suckered into backing him for the Arc. And I really like Naran, as we talked about before. What did you make of that race overall, the Prince d'Orange? And what did you make of Coeur d'Orge, Naran, and more importantly, Darius?
Yeah, interesting race. If you told me a Japanese horse going to win the Arc, I think it will be Aloha Ali. But I thought Coeur d'Or ran really well. This was the slowest winning time in this race since Recoletos in 2017. And I felt like Darius was ridden to get the trip. Now, there's been a lot of rain, so the ground's going to affect that. But I just felt like they had a plan with Darius. Was like, right, let's get to the bottom of the hill and see where we are. And they obviously looked at it and thought the Japanese thing's the danger. Let's get behind the Japanese horse and then let's have a run at him. Darius nearly got there. But my kind of concern with this race is at the 2 furlong pole, everything still had a chance. Everything's still travelling. Uhtred is still travelling. Bolster is still travelling. They've got no business being considered as Arc performers, and they're still there. It does develop into a little bit of a battle. Coeur d'Or just about gets the better of Darius, just about, but I think there are stronger stayers in the Arc than Darius. Now, Darius has definitely booked his ticket, I would say, but I think he's going to need a very cute ride. But what I would also say is we've got 3 Japanese horses. Aidan's going to have a crack at it. There are probably 1 or 2 British runners. There's Kalpana. This is going to be 15, 16, 17, however many runners. For goodness sake, don't be having an anti-post bet now. No. Because if you back a horse anti-post and it gets drawn 17, your price doubles overnight. And if you're going to have a bet and you're going to take the PMU price, those things drawn out wide are going to be massive.
Yeah.
Slow down. Don't worry about it on the day. Have a look at it. Neither of those horses did their Arc chances any harm. But they're both going to find that the Arc is a much deeper race than this. And of all the trials we've had in France, I thought this was the weakest one.
Yeah, I think all of that is very fair. I would absolutely urge caution in terms of having a bet in the race. The 20-1 you're getting about Darius now, you'll get at least 16 on the day. I'd rather take 16s having full info of... Do you agree with that?
Yeah, probably, depending on what Barcelona chooses and what they choose to run in the race. Obviously they've got Gazora in the yard. They've got a few other options, but yeah, probably that price will be around about right. The problem is Darius could be a price-wise horse. Oh. Whereby, I'm not slagging Tom.
No, I'm not either, but he kills the price when he puts one up. That's the problem. He's so good, everyone follows him in.
When you've got an Arc like this, no one's really going to put up Aventura at the price she is, even though she's probably the most likely winner. Everyone is going to be looking for, this is wide open, let me find a big price one. There are a couple of horses that if you knew they were going to run in the race are going to move in the market. Hochkönig is one, the German Derby winner. There's also Darius is one that could get tipped up. You're going to find people making cases for all kinds of horses. And what will happen is there'll be a gamble. And whatever that horse is will be plunged in. Darius could be that one. He could be that one because everyone will say, the former Ombudsman and Delacroix, ignore that. Apart from that, he's run really good races, which he has. But it is the kind of race that it's going to be 4-1 the field. There's no need to go ploughing in anti-post now. It's too late. If you got on Aventura when she was double figures or whatever else, well done. But just sit and wait, because if the 3 or 4 horses at the head of betting get drawn 12 or bigger, they're going to need enormous performances to win and they're going to drift. Equally speaking, you might find it a case that gets drawn 2 or 3, gets out in front, and it's a really good value bet. So it's best just to wait now.
I agree. All right, what was the best performance you saw over the weekend, Georgia Cox?
Best performance. I did actually like the filly who won the Flying Shoulders, Revivable Power. I thought I liked her when she won at York because I thought she went lickety-lick, put everyone under pressure. Anyone who tried to keep up with her fell out the back of the TV. She rallied, she quickened, and you can forgive any horse for flopping at Ascot, which is her only blot on her copybook. She has so much speed. The eye was drawn to her the whole race. She, they say Havana Hurricane doesn't stay sixth, but she made her speed made him look like he wanted sixth. And the past 10 years, 2 fillies have won the race before, Heartache and Trillium, and I think she'll be much better than them. She doesn't have any fancy entries at the moment, but I think she'll be one to follow.
Yeah, I wrote down this is going to be a Group 1 sprinter next season, and then like a dum-dum back to Mission Central against her and tipped him. Oh, what an idiot. Adam, your best performance of the last few days?
Well, so many to choose from. Delacroix the best performance. I've got 2 eye catchers. One was a horse called Blingy's Sister, who ran in the sales race at the Curragh yesterday. Was gambled from 7-8 to 1 in the morning, goes off at 2s. Oh my God. If you're on this gamble, you must feel like your world has ended because this horse could not get a run at all. The gap never came. And then finally they gave up, went wide, absolutely flying in the final furlong. Oh my goodness. Whoever lined up this gamble is a genius. But what they didn't factor in was that the big field was going to screw them over. That was really unlucky. I nearly put up a horse called Monte, but I've decided I'm done with the sprint division. If I wasn't, this was a really good performance in the Prix de Petit Couvert, which is the trial for the Prix de l'Abbé. But Monte had everything right. Christian Demuro got stall 1. And not only did he get stall 1, which is important to Paris Longchamp, the jockeys in front of him then had the kind courtesy to say, we'll just move a couple of lengths to the side, Christian. You go along the rail. And that was an absolutely brilliant piece of luck. It did Ray Evka, who finished second. If Monte gets a low draw for the Prix de l'Abbé, I will have one last go at the sprint division. Because if you get a low draw, you can travel through it. And she's shown now that she can win over 5 furlongs, but she's got to get a low draw at the Abbey. But for me, the performance of the weekend was in a little race called the Prix de Pan, which was won by another Francis-Henri Graffard horse called Rochefort. He missed a whole year with injury, so we've kind of forgotten about him. Came back and dropped into Class 3 company at Dieppe. That race is irrelevant. But he's absolutely buried Poet Master. And Poet Master was travelling. And Rochefort's just stayed in a straight line and galloped him into submission. He's a gelding. Like all the best horses in France, they seem to have cut his nudges off, which is a real shame. But he's in the Daniel Wildenstein on Arc weekend, and he will win that.
All right.
Did Kia Jabraken okay that? Did he know? Was the owner discussed with beforehand? Jamie, your best performance?
Oh, Delacroix and Al Rifil for me, obviously. Emmet, and I said 2 horses. I actually backed the winner of Carl Burke. I was absolutely blessed. Alperson had a good bet in it. And I goes, oh my God, what's the gamble of Hugo Farmers? And the lads next to me goes, yeah, we all backed that. Oh, where'd you get it? A postman inside in Clarny. Oh my God. They never said nothing to me. And I was like, ha. And I wrote it down as well. And I said it. And then Adam Nils just explained that. Just go back and watch the race. He was absolutely robbed.
Nightmare stuff.
Yeah, I suppose my most eye-catching is that Beautify, Emmet, and it's the case of Benvenuto Cellini. He's either, like, what he's going to do now with Benvenuto Cellini, he's either going to the Futurity or he's going to Lac de Dare. So, to me, the most eye-catching thing in his box is like what George said. He came off Montreal. I think Montreal might go to France, and I think Cellini will go to Doncaster on soft ground, yeah.
Yeah, he's a Sea the Stars, Montreal, and he's a very, very... That was an 8-length win at Leopardstown. It was unbelievable. I'll mention a horse that fell out the back of the telly. The race was over before it even began. It was the sprint race on day 2, the first race of the Curragh, Carla Ridge. She was making her handicap debut. She was sent off 11-1. She was backed from 16s and draw a line through it. Race is over before it even begins. She could win a nice handicap, though. She was off a mark of 102 there. Maybe the handicapper will be very generous and drop her. They don't really do that in Ireland, though. It's not like the British horses, Georgia, who come over and are well treated. Maybe they can learn a lesson or two, but she's got really good form from the Commonwealth Cup. She's been behind Sky Majesty in her last 2 races, and she's a horse to keep on side for sure. And the best performance of the weekend, I cannot believe these three never mentioned the best performance of the weekend. The horse we started with, Zavateri! Zavateri! He will continue to crush his enemies. And we will take advantage of everybody saying, oh, no, he's not that good, he's not that good. Keep talking that talk. Keep it up. Just means we get bigger prices. Georgia, thank you so much for joining us again on the show. Really enjoy your company. Hopefully we'll have you on again. Well, we will have you on again before the end of the season, but we have to work out what show suits you best. Adam, you're back with us again this day next week, as are you, Jamie, as we talk more about the race. What do we even have this weekend? What's coming up?
Is it not the
Okay. Do we have anything else?
I know, it's Newbury. There's a few Group 3s in Newbury, isn't there? Maybe something like that.
The Horse Hill?
Millreef.
Millreef. All right. Okay.
Where Doreen Tabor after having a share on that horse that has been 80 to 1, 1 at 80 to 1 the last day at Newbury. No,
Grand Tour horse. Yeah. Call that one, Georgia. Is the Doreen Tabor acquisition? Well, she didn't get the full horse. She just bought into him because they wouldn't. Is In the Sky going to bolt up for Jim Boyle this weekend?
I'll let you guys discuss that.
The hesitation says it all.
Yeah. It's not a great race. Which reminds me, why did I let these three talk me into, oh no, Shadow of Light is really good. Oh no, ignore the fact that he beat Whistle Jacket, whose form ties him with Babouche, and expanded to become European champion 2-year-old. Charlie Appleby is a genius. I don't know how the hell he got that horse to be third in a 2,000 guineas and third in a French Group 1, but he is rubbish, that horse. Absolute rubbish. To quote the great man, absolute rubbish. He's an underachiever and knows nothing. Absolute.
You should take that back.
Shocking stuff. Why? And I talked myself out of Marvel Man. What a dummy. What an idiot. Oh my goodness. I felt such a fool on Saturday. Anyway, from Georgia, from Adam, from Jamie, and from me, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Did you smash like on this? Have you hit the subscribe button? It's all much appreciated. We'll talk to you again very, very soon in the Final Furlong podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
Thanks for spending some time with us on the Final Furlong podcast. We're independent media, so if you like what we do, hit like, share, and subscribe. It's free, it's quick, and it genuinely helps. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. Don't miss out. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms, and join us on the gravy train. The Final Furlong podcast, independent, unfiltered, and powered by you.